Top stories in Google News. Batch of homegrown coronavirus mutations seen in US. CNN. Researchers said Sunday they have identified a batch of similar troubling mutations in coronavirus samples circulating in the United States. They've not only drawn attention to them, they've come up with a better shorthand for referring to them. They've named them after birds. The mutations all affect the same stretch of spike protein, the knob-like extension on the outside of the virus that it uses to dock onto the cells it infects. The researchers wrote in a preprint report. It's not peer-reviewed yet, but researchers are rushing such findings online to share them quickly with other experts. Another top story. South Central US is bracing for another brutal round of sub-freezing temperatures, snow, and ice. There was no shortage of winter weather hazards across the United States on Sunday, with half of all Americans under winter warnings, watches, or advisories, according to the National Weather Service's Weather Prediction Center. But there's one particularly ferocious winter storm that's taking aim at the south central US, parts of which are still reeling from the deadly conditions a separate storm system created last week. And the worst part, it will be followed by another strong storm system that's like to hit Tuesday. Top story from Reddit, Futurology. Shell says it has reached peak oil production. Top comments from Goldie Genome. More accurately, Shell says oil reached peak demand in 2019 and COVID was the beginning of demand contacting. Comment from Was Saw. Remember back in 2005 when they were on that kick saying oil is naturally produced by the earth continuously? They lied. From Out of the Loop. What's the deal with Joker saying, "We'll live in a society"? A new Justice League trailer. Top comments from Joe282. Answer. So a few years back, memes featuring Heath Ledger's Joker went around the internet with the top text reading, "We'll live in a society," and the bottom text would read something which people saw as a very deep and thought-provoking observation about society, more often than not with broken English, but they were generally ridiculed by the majority. They were mostly popular among neckbeards and really emo types, and became synonymously with gamers, and the gamers rise up, ideal. People started cropping the meme, so it just read, "We'll live in a society," and the phrase became a meme and became associated with the character of the Joker, really becoming a big meme around the time Joker 2019 movie was released. Zack Snyder putting it in the trailer is basically the first time DC has acknowledged the meme. From Gemini Dream, answer, "We live in a society" is a meme typically associated with edgy teenagers or parodied as being such. Edgy teenagers also being obsessed with the Joker is sort of cliche too. Here's the know your meme about gamer Joker. Will live in a society. Snyder is sort of throwing a bone to internet meme culture, a nod and a wink to his fan base who will recognize Joker saying, "We'll live in a society" as itself being a meme. Under science, Democratic governors who win office by thin margins lock more people up and spend more money on jails and prisons than their Republican counterparts, according to new research, a finding that exposes some Democrats' complicity in the rapid growth of institutions designed to punish criminals. Top comments from Tokar. Causal or are thin margin Democratic governors found in states where jailing people is popular as a political platform. Are governors expected to go against majority opinion? I'm not arguing. I'm genuinely curious. Sansker said, "I'm a little confused by this study. Governors are usually the highest executive position in a state. They are not absolute rulers. Legislators write criminal laws, sentencing recommendations, mandatory minimum laws, and create corrections budgets. In thin margin states or purple states, there is likely to be divided government or power sharing arrangements in the legislature. I live in NC, where the Attorney General is independently elected, who is more liberal than the governor. So the governor isn't the top law enforcement officer. Here, there is an extremely conservative General Assembly controlling criminal justice policy and budgets. I can't tell if any of these factors is controlled or in the study and how this factors into complicity. From Global Talk, question: why is racism accepted and encouraged in most countries in the world apart from white majority ones? Question. Not trying to start any kind of argument here, but it's something I've noticed as I watch the world burn and read various articles. Here in the States, I'm Asian American. Racism, for the most part, is considered impolite and frowned upon. People fight against it in large numbers. In Asia, Africa, whatever, racism is rampant and encouraged. China has a crazy racism problem that people don't care about. If you're not Chinese, you are a trash there. Why in the West, USA and Europe do we consider ourselves above this kind of behavior while the rest of the world is happy to be prejudiced and racist? Are we going against human nature being nice? Top comments. Finger of God. Progress is not evenly distributed. From Avocanto. I could be wrong, but I think part of the reason that racism is considered worse in Western cultures compared to Eastern ones is that the Western cultures tend to be more multicultural. From From Tech News Today, a huge fund bought Tesla, Apple, and Microsoft stock. Here's what it saw. Top comments from Clean Remote. TLDR, but Tesla, Apple, Microsoft sell ATT. From Wild A. Asking this for the sake of discussion. Why isn't there discussion on whether news like this counts as market manipulation, but what happened at RWSB triggered that conversation? Pretty much every day. Different websites push different stocks. Why is that different? From Life Pro Tips, LPT, do not pour hot or even warm water on your windshield to outsmart the storm and melt the frost or ice quickly. It will crack your windshield. Top comments from Pawn Star. Rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle works wonders. From Opoco. Just take the windshield off and put it back on after the storm. From YSK. If you're even raped or assaulted and want to report to the police, make your own written account of everything that happened and keep it. When I was assaulted and reported to the police, they made me repeat myself so many times and give my statement to so many different people, which meant I kept having to relive it. I wish I just written something down with all the details as soon as it happened, so I could then just read it out to the people I needed to tell, and wouldn't have to worry about trying so hard to remember it and think about missing any details. Top comments from Dites Gen 17. It must be horrible to have to keep repeating the same details, but I imagine that they don't want victims to read from a script. The person might be doing it because she or he's lying and wants to keep his or her story straight. In addition, they're probably hoping that new details will come to mind as the account is given. It doesn't hurt to have a statement that can be checked later in case you left out details, but I don't think a law enforcement agency will allow you to simply read or submit a statement. They need to ask you questions. Top story from Longevity. The single biggest challenge with longevity is funding. It seems pretty clear to me, doesn't make it true, that most all bio research requires large amounts of funding. The average cost of bringing a new drug to market is somewhere around $1.3 billion. Note this is actually about 50% lower estimate than prior studies. Part of this may be because the low-hanging fruit with respect to most diseases has been picked, but in general, I think it's hard to mentally grasp how many or how much money and thereby human effort is poured into basic science, then animal models, then primate models, then human trials, and then the monitoring of that trial's outcome over a long period of time, and then the monitoring of that drug in public over a longer period of time. What are people's thoughts on how best to solve this? It seems like the ultimate cooperation or trust challenge where any one person should be willing to give up one natural lifespan worth of savings. Because you then get an extended lifespan worth of earnings, assuming you can maintain relevance. But no one person's life savings is anywhere near though. Thoughts on starting a company or a new cryptocurrency offering? I generally think there's many scammers in the realm, but it's at least theoretically a way to log commitment in a permanent way. Thoughts on actually getting serious attention from one of the new age billionaires, example Peter Thiel or Elon Musk. Apologies if this is off topic or has been hashed before. I am new to the community. But it's also fairly obvious from an outsider's perspective that no meaningful solution has yet matured. Top comments from Chromosomal Crossover. Thoughts on starting a company? A company to do what? There are over 100 companies working on age-related disease. Part of this may be because the low-hanging fruits with respect to most diseases have been picked. But in general, I think it's hard to mentally grasp how much money, and thereby human effort, is poured into basic science, then animal models, then primate models, then human trials, and then the monitoring of that trial's outcome over a long period of time, and then the monitoring of that drug in public over a longer period of time. Has it been picked? Very little of that history of medical research has been about addressing disease via the biology of aging, though. It's only within the last decade or so that people have started to try to understand the mechanisms and intervene. The team took over 10 years to get funded, over 100 million required for something as basic as testing whether metformin has an effect on non-diabetics. A product to test rapamycin, one of the best-known candidates of slowing age-related disease in model organisms against Alzheimer's disease, only just got funded recently. Thoughts on actually getting serious attention from one of the new age billionaires, example Peter Thiel or Elon Musk? It's more than likely that if they are not already interested, they won't be until some of the first therapies addressing at least one of the hallmarks starts to enter the clinic. Take a look at the rejuvenation roadmap for some efforts along those lines. Any one person should be willing to give up one natural lifespan worth of savings, because you then get an extended lifespan worth of earnings, assuming you can maintain relevance. But no one person's life savings is anywhere near enough. I think that's too far gone and unrealistic. Even if individual people gave like $5 once a year to underfunded research institutions, they would create massive funding opportunities.